Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. In today's podcast, we are going to be talking about, let's continue the trajectory, even though it's the last episode for the week. Talking about setback. I don't want to use the word failure because I don't agree with failure, but I call it setback, not to flavor it or super sugarcoat them. I like this one actually. You never know which people, places, and experiences are going to shift your perspective until after you left them behind and had some time to look back. So true. Sometimes you put in situations that requires you to go through hardship because those individuals are there to teach you a lesson. And it could be very costly. Okay? So, going through a bad situation with someone that brings you, instead of moving you forward, always bring you 5 to 10 step backwards. Somebody on TikTok put a comment for people to respond to her actually, and she was asking, would you stay with somebody you love, but financially, every time you do one step forward, they make you do 2 steps backwards? My response to her was, no thanks, I won't. Because I've been there. And being unable or blocked to move you forward is not what we're looking for. So some people will be there in your life to teach you a lesson, which means your boundaries, which means your choices. Are you going to stay for somebody because you have the illusion of loving that person? Or are you going to stay in a job that gives you the idea or the safety you're receiving your checks? Or are you willing to set your boundaries and said, no, thank you, I have overgrown my job. So I need to move on to the next level, which is scary. Or you're looking at someone and you see the red flags. And even though you're ignoring those red flags, then your life become an entire challenge. Your life is being put upside down. Do you stay or do you go? Well, I'd rather go, because somebody in your life, like a job or someone in your life, is supposed to elevate you. They're supposed to, quote unquote, inspires you, not make you regress. And it doesn't matter if there is attachment to it or not. You need to understand that. If there is an illusion of attachment, then you need to look at the cause. You need to also understand, because I've heard it for so many people, well, if I'm not staying with that person, nobody's going to love me. The fear of being alone. You're more alone into a relationship that doesn't work than anything else. What keeps you in is the toxicity. What keeps you in is the patterns. I had somebody in my life. That's why, for somebody who never open up, now talk about situation that might or might not relate to it, but somebody who tried to create a pattern to try to cause quote unquote, what I call an addiction. They could not. That person was so mad, actually. And I wrote about it because I wrote 2 blogs, and it's on my website if you ever wonder where they are. Because when I wrote blogs, now I do it only 3 times a week, and it used to be 7 days a week. I was writing so much, and I put them on my website if you want to read this one, because this is interesting. It's horrifying in one way, but it's very interesting when you're looking at people and patterns. Some individual will try to create patterns of addiction, and generally it's full of toxicity. That's what the issue is the toxicity that you are experiencing with those individuals. I created it, and it's under edgintuitive.com, all one word, actually. And I have one called podcast, and I have write 2 blogs that are now permanently in my website because there is a page for each one of them. One of them is the story of a junkie narcissist, and the most horrifying is the part 2 on that story, but this is a true story actually because it's based on what happened to me. But it's not to blame, it's to show what was it. Now, when people are creating pattern of toxicity, they will try to, and you have to observe it. And I am an observer. So that person had a problem because when I saw him starting to do that. I noticed a lot of things. And he tried, and I wasn't entering in his game, which is chaos, which is conflict, which is frustration, which is basically what the narcissist does, which first of all, they shower you and love bomb you, and then they're going to start to blame you for everything and discard you. Those are the phases. I maybe miss one, but when they start to really not love bomb you, but after that, when they start to blame you for everything because they want their freedom to do something. So they're going to blame you. And he created the chaos, and the previous relationship he was in were so chaotic, he was in control of it. The most interesting part of it is when I was towards the end, it was just a day before I finally escaped that circus. He admitted it. He was so frustrated because he finally said the truth. And the truth in a couple of years of being in that relationship was something for somebody who lied on a daily basis was amazing. It was shocking, but it was amazing to finally get the truth out of it. And he tried to create patterns. And he was pissed because I wasn't addicted. And he wanted that addiction. He wanted to be the number one in my world. Problem is I've been there around the block a little longer, and he had more than he could handle with me because he could not manipulate me. And he tried in different ways, shape, or form. But I always look at his patterns. He thought that he could have me under his thumb like he did with everybody else's, and he did not. But the pattern was there. So you have to look at the pattern. You have to look at when you engage in somebody's creating a chaos like he did. He destroyed his entire kitchen and the living room. And when I said destroy, it was everything was destroyed in that kitchen and dining room. You cannot even use the patio door because I explained this one. I went back in the office. I'm like, well, this is monkey, his circus. I had to calm down my dogs because they got scared. And I said, that's fine. I'm going to open the patio door for the bedroom and use the bedroom to go outside. I don't give a crap. All of the stuff he was doing, I observed it. But I never stepped into his chaos. I did it at the beginning until I'm like, no, that's not happening here. But seeing where I was before I met him to the time I left, I saw that person wasn't for my highest good. That person was trying to destroy me, actually. That was his challenge, to really put my life upside down, which he did. Not successfully, but he did. Navigating the raging river that is our lives, we have to look at who do we have around us? What are they teaching us? And this is where you set your boundaries. And this is the same with work. You have to look at if you are working somewhere, everything goes well. And then you go later on and realize that everything is changing and moving forward. Then somehow you need to make the change, some people are unwilling to do that. So they will be forced out of their situation, or they will be miserable in a job they hated, and they start to turn sour. But they want that paycheck because they feel that position is their safekeeping, which is not. So you really have to open yourself up and looking at where you are and where you're standing. What have you learned from all of the people in your personal life and in your working life? Have you observed patterns? What are those patterns? I talked about the groupies, which to me are the most dangerous people you can ever find, especially when you're working with people who are intended to be your coworker or your boss, and all of a sudden you get those groupies coming and the chaos starts. Yes, you can fight battles. Yes, you can be overwhelmed by the entire situation. But what do you do at the end of the day? Do you feel you should continue to act this way? Or do you say, okay, it's time for me to go. The signs are here. I don't want to deal with psychotic groupies because they will use everything to turn your life upside down. So look at what people are teaching you, what you have been taught, and recognize those signs. Recognize the red flags, personal or professional. Again, you can stay where you are, or you can move on. It takes courage to move on, because that's mean when you move on, you set your boundaries. You're not going to take it anymore. And you're going to improve your life. You're going to look back and say, holy crap, I escaped hell from there. Or that job was so horrible. I was so stressed out. I took it on my family every single time I came home. Now I'm in a better position. My family now doesn't have to feel the wrath of my stress. How many people I've come back to their home stressed out because they had to deal with people that they don't like, or felt that you were being under attack every single time, or you did not felt your job in that time was good enough, even though you did a great job, but you felt undermined, and you took it upon your mate, or your kids, or your dogs, or your cat. Or even the grocery store, I witnessed several times people who were stressed out and they get on the clerk for no reason. But they needed to release that energy. So when you're aware of the pattern, when you're aware of the situation where you are, then you need to be honest with yourself. That's why authenticity and honesty is so key for our own self. If you don't want to be honest to people around you, that's your problem, your monkey, your circus. But be honest to your own self, because you will realize when you become honest to yourself and said, well, that's a situation I do not want to be in anymore, then you walk away and you're fine. And you're like, okay, I've learned everything I have to learn. Now it's time for me to move on. Making sure that you are moving on, you're moving out, and you're pushing yourself to the next level. So that, to me, is so essential. And be who you're meant to become. And I know it can be a stigma for a lot of people, but we're here to learn life lessons. We're here to get our spirit, our soul, to grow and mature. So this is into our interest to be honest with ourselves. Because do we really want to continue to have to deal with the same pattern? Not really, I don't. I'd rather do something more interesting than being forced to do things I don't want to do. So think about it. Think about where you are. What are the life lessons you have learned from work and at home? And reflect on that for a minute to see the pattern, to see what can I do to avoid this repetition again. What can I do to embody the peace and the serenity that I need? That's what you have to look for. So think about this. Think about your true self and think about how can you improve all of this all the way around. I have done that. I have made a terrible mistake, which I paid dearly, but I'm okay with that because this was my monkey, my circus, nobody to blame. And I had to learn some others. They were absolutely unpleasant. And being open to just said, okay, I understand what I've done. Now it is time for me to shine bright and continue to move in a way that will help me to continue to evolve, to continue to witness myself doing something extraordinary than I was afraid to do. So much changes are happening in this world right here, right now, and we're part of it. So why not embracing the changes and learn to really step up into the unknown? Again, when we're faced with all of this, and that happens all the time, we just want peace. We just don't want these chaotic lives, most of us. What do? Then, if I don't like what's going on, it's time for me to go. And off I go. So think about the passion you've got. Think about what you want to do in your life. And something that I found it very interesting is when you find your hobby, your passion you do on the side, then you're going to bring the peace within yourself. And people around you are going to have a sense of it. So it might appease the situation where you are. But when you got the passion, do what you love to do. Again, we are born where we are born. That doesn't mean we have to stick around and apply to all of those rules we have learned. Those are tools for us to recognize. It is time for us to shape ourselves based on negative situation and really show the progress we have made by walking away. You will be amazed of the progress you can make when you walk away from situation. I'm not saying running away. I say walk away. It is hard to do things and to make the changes in our lives, but it is rewarding to see within 6 months, even less, how much progress you can make about your own self, how resilient, how much strength you have. Every day is not roses and bonbons. But there is one thing that I have learned through all of my life is that I will not take no for an answer. I will move in a direction I need to move, not because somebody tell me to do so, but because I felt compelled to do it. I listen to my gut's feeling. I listen to my inner voices. I have learned a lot, and I have not write what happened to me in the latest relationship I had, which was even worse than the narc situation I was in, because it involved threats, physical threats actually, that could even end up being between 4 plywood and 6 foot under. But this wasn't caused because for the ride, it happened for a situation that I needed to set the boundaries, which I did. But it was costly to me in a sense of it really pushed me to decide and said, you know what, I need to find a solution to the problem I have and how do I deal with it. So we are learning all of our life lessons, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I have been in a situation at work where I was harassed for 24 months because people didn't like me, literally, because I was working and not buying with their BS, because I was doing the right thing for the company. That's okay. I took it. So this, I would say, mind games really taught me a lot and how much resilience and strengths I had. So you go through life with those kind of challenges, but you learn a lot from you. How much resilience, how strengths you've got. And no, you're not taking anybody else's crap, and you're not taking any prisoners. And you don't take the garbage with you. You leave the garbage behind. This is one of the biggest lessons I've learned. I'm not taking the garbage with me. I'm clearing up everything and doing a purge. Let's purge everything that is not for my highest good in order to move forward to a better place. And you need to do the same. So look at where you are in your life in general. It's not only the work, it's in general, and see what works and what doesn't work and what patterns are around. Are you addicted to some patterns? And if you do, then it's time for you to work on your own self. One of the biggest part and the hardest thing is to recognize the pattern, acknowledge them, and walk away from it. So this was our podcast for today. That was the last of the week. Yay! I have no idea what we're going to be talking on our next podcast because this is how we roll here. We just go with the flow. So I just wish everybody a good weekend and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast. Universe Podcast.